Ajax have been tremendous from everything I'm seeing. I honestly feel like Ajax feel like more of a unit than Real Madrid do. No, this Ajax team is actually capable of causing an upset. Yeah, no, lock it in, Real Madrid. I'm probably going to regret that. I can't believe I spent nearly half of my round of 16 predictions video bigging up Ajax, only to then say they would lose against Real Madrid. I nearly saved the god-awful title that I had to bestow upon that video. Hey guys, how's it going? Masterbucks here. Welcome to my quarterfinal, semi-final, and even final predictions for the Champions League. Yes, of course, there have been some changes to the Champions League draw, so now we know the exact path that all teams are going to have to take to get to the final. Which means now I can not only predict who I think is going to win in the quarterfinals and progress to the semi-finals, but I am also getting to predict who I think will go through to the semis to the final itself because the bracket is complete. But before we do that, I am going to very quickly go through my previous predictions, my round of 16 predictions, which I should just really quickly remind you, I made about 3 or 4 months ago. I maybe made a mistake making predictions that far away. To give you an idea of how long ago this was, Jose Mourinho was still the manager of Manchester United when I made those predictions. No shit, I said they were screwed back then. I had no idea that Ole Gunnar Solskjaer was going to take over the team and they were going to go on that impeccable run. But anyway, let's go through all the predictions that I made, and it didn't exactly get off to the best of starts. The first game was Schalke versus Manchester City. I don't even think I need to say anything. We knew that Man City were going to go through. They were the heavy favourites. They were probably the most favoured side to get out and go through the quarterfinals. Now they've got Tottenham. We'll be talking about that later. But I said Man City would go through, predicted they'd beat Schalke. They beat them comfortably. That was a massacre of a second leg. Nothing really to talk about there. Nothing to even boast of. The next one was Atletico Madrid versus Juventus. And I was very, very nervous after the first leg. But no, thankfully, Cristiano Ronaldo came to my rescue more than anything. He got that hat-trick. Juventus went through 3-2 on aggregate. I did predict Juventus to win. And yeah, I was nervous. I was nervous that this one was not going to end up and I was going to have a shocking time. But no, 2 for 2 so far. We got Juventus correct. Then it was, of course, Manchester United versus PSG. I said that PSG were going to win. And again, at the time, Jose Mourinho was a manager. They were playing some shoddy, shocking, very uninteresting football. Manchester United, complete U-turn, complete turnaround in the past couple of months. And even though I think I probably still deserve to have got this right, because I still don't agree with that VAR penalty decision. I agree that yes, it should have been a penalty, but I don't think that VAR should have called it back. That might take you a little while to get your head around, but that's what I genuinely think. I think it was a penalty, but it shouldn't have actually been given and PSG should have gone through. When it happened, no one literally cared. The commentators, all the players except for Diogo Dalot, he was the only one that had any sort of half-hearted shout, and that was that. We were fully prepared to get on with the corner and get on with the game. No one would have cared. But VAR popped up for clear and obvious errors. That's what it's there for. I don't think that was clear and obvious. Not when literally almost every single person watching the game, including the players, including the refs, and the commentators, barely anyone picked it up. It's clearly not that massive an error or a mistake. So that's why I don't think VAR should have intervened. But it did. Penalty decision, I just agree with, even though it is absolutely bloody brutal. Manchester United go through, and I lost, unfortunately, my first prediction. The next one I had is Dortmund versus Tottenham, and again, this is the problem when you make predictions for games 3-4 months before they happen. Dortmund was on bloody fire. They were top of the Bundesliga. And ever since then, they've been really, really shocking. Their form going into those Champions League round of 16 games were awful. And even through them, they just weren't up to par. And again, had I made those predictions a little closer to the games, probably would have gone with Tottenham. But I didn't. I said that Dortmund would win. Tottenham ended up getting up. So now I'm 2 for 2. 2 correct, 2 incorrect. The next one was Lyon versus Barcelona. Thankfully, that one ended up becoming correct as well. It was a pretty simple pick as well. Barcelona to get past Lyon, even though Lyon, in the first leg, definitely gave them some trouble. And when they returned for the second leg, in the away leg, I know that they ended up losing by quite a fair bit, like 5-1 on aggregate, but for the majority of that game, I don't think people are giving Lyon enough credit. They were in the contest and they were actually quite decent, but just got rolled over right toward the end. They lost their running and Barcelona went over the top of them. But I don't think the scoreline is really a fair reflection. I think Barcelona deserved to win, obviously. They had a brilliant second leg, really performed well. Messi, four goal involvements, 2 goals and 2 assists, absolutely amazing. But I don't think Leon deserved to go down 5-1 after the 2 legs of action. Next one was Roma versus Porto. Roma, who made it all the way to the semi-finals in the last competition, ended up being knocked out to Porto again in a crazy, cracking second leg. I feel like this was again a pretty even one, but I don't think even if I'd made my predictions like a day or two before the first legs, I would have changed it. So I'm going to go with, I did go with Roma to win. They obviously ended up losing in the second leg and lost on aggregate, so Porto got through. So 3 correct, 3 incorrect. The other match, I predicted Liverpool and Bayern Munich. Liverpool to go through, and it was a bit of a tight one. I was weighing up between both Bayern and Liverpool, but ended up going with Liverpool because, again, at the time, Bayern Munich were really struggling. They were like 3rd or 4th in the Bundesliga, which was unheard of, and Liverpool were flying and looking like they were the maybe not heavy favourites, but the favourites over Manchester City to win the Premier League. So in a way, the fact that I made those predictions 3 or 4 months ago actually kind of helped me in this situation. So we got 4 out of 3. And then the last one, which was, of course, Ajax versus Real Madrid. And after spending the entire time analysing and previewing the game, the round of 16 fixture between Ajax and Real Madrid, spent the entire time picking up Ajax, only for me right at the end to go, actually, nah, Real Madrid. It does my head in watching that footage back, knowing what could have been. Very disappointing. I'm not happy, but all right, let's now get on to predicting the quarterfinals, thus the semis, and the final itself. The first game we'll take a look at is Tottenham versus Manchester City. Now, Tottenham are struggling at the moment to try to keep a spot in the top 4 there. I believe still 3rd at the moment, but it feels like Manchester United's honestly hot on their tails. I know that they're battling with Arsenal and Chelsea to try to stick in the top 4. But like, if Manchester United keep the form that they've shown since Ole Gunnar Solskjaer took over, and they keep playing with this ebb and flow, then I reckon they maybe could almost threaten toward the end of the season Tottenham's chances at 3rd, because there's obviously no way Liverpool or Man City are getting overtaken. It's just not going to happen. Man City look to be bloody strong, not only in the Champions League, getting a massive 7-0 victory in it, in the knockout stage, in the second leg of their contest, and a huge win on aggregate. What was it, 10-2, I believe? Just mental stuff. So if that's the form that they're in the Champions League, looking very good in the Premier League too, I reckon they're back to being now the strongest side in it. Liverpool definitely were a few months ago, but now they've taken their spot back on top of the table, and with good reason. So not only are Manchester City the strongest side in my opinion, but they also have a very good record over Tottenham in the last couple of years or so. So you'd wonder if that's going to break across 2 legs. I don't know, but I think there's definitely, again, a favourite, Man City, and I'm probably going to be leaning on a lot of the favourites for the quarterfinals anyway, but I think we go with Man City for this one. Tottenham maybe could pull off an upset. I think they're one of the teams that could definitely do it, but I think Man City will get this one. I just can't really find much of a justification for picking Tottenham. The other one is Ajax versus Juventus. Now, Ajax, as much as I bigged them up against Real Madrid, only to end up going and picking Real Madrid, they seriously impressed me. And even in the first leg when they went down, it was a little BS the first leg. Obviously, some of the goals Real Madrid were given, but that second leg was unbelievable. The bottle and the character it shows to go to the Bernabeu, Real Madrid, the home of the 3-time back-to-back champions, and to do that to them in their own yard was unbelievable, even if they are struggling and their wings have been clipped a little bit. But I don't know. I imagine that would be it'd be so special to see Ajax go deep in this competition. But I feel like Juventus are going to be riding way too high after the unbelievable result that they had against Atletico Madrid, coming back from a 2-0 deficit. And not only that, Juventus are clearly a much stronger and much more compact and capable unit compared to Real Madrid and the shambles that they've been this season. Even now with Zidane taking over, you look all before that, it's just been awful for them. Meanwhile, Juventus have just been continuing to dominate Serie A as they have for the last 6 or 7 years, so there's no real changes there. And you've got players that are very well capable of performing on the big stage, because everyone talks about Ronaldo's hat-trick, as they should, but without Bernardeschi, without João Cancelo and a few other names in that side, they don't come back. So it's not just Ronaldo. If anything, it was actually all those other blokes that were really setting him up, and his goals were very poachers finishes, those 2 headers and then obviously the penalty. But the rest of the team that everyone isn't talking about, they actually had a massive performance on that second leg as well. So that's why I think Juventus going to be a bit too strong for Ajax, although I hope Ajax put up a bit of a fight. I will go for Juventus to get through to the next round. Now then, Manchester United versus Barcelona. I said they were screwed in my previous predictions, my round of 16 predictions, but that was when Mourinho was in charge. Now, it's Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, and they are looking like a completely different team. They are going up against Barcelona, though. Now, lads, we know that Manchester United are playing extremely well at the moment, and even if they have maybe dropped a couple of points in previous games, like, for example, against Arsenal, where they went down 2-0, they lost, but I don't think they were that bad. As a matter of fact, they had some passages of play in the game where they just looked unbelievable, like just completely ridiculous. There was one chance that they had where they just went from one end of the field to the other. Pogba played like an unbelievable just cross-field pass that was just bang on the money. Lukaku took a fucking perfect touch. It's Lukaku that took an amazing touch after a cross-field pass from Pogba. And that's Lukaku that we're talking about here. Like, they were playing unbelievably. And again, riding high off the back of an amazing win over PSG when they went down 2-0. And that was with the kids. So what can the main team do? And I reckon even some of the kids will probably get a run against Barcelona after their amazing performance. I don't know exactly how many. I don't know. Maybe not your Tahith Chongs and your Mason Greenwoods or anything like that. But I think Manchester United, everyone, when they got Barcelona, yes, that is probably almost the worst team that they could have been drawn up against. But I tell you what, I believe in this Manchester United team. I believe in them. And I know that Barcelona have had their struggles in the quarterfinals as of late. They've gone out twice in a row in the last 2 seasons in the quarterfinals after not really being able to perform. Decent first leg, pathetic second leg. I wonder, after that is pretty much how that was the complete opposite of the Manchester United story against PSG. I wonder, are they able to do it? Lads, I'm going to say that Manchester United will make it through and they will knock out Barcelona. I am deadly serious. This is taking, in my honest opinion, more balls than saying that Ajax would beat Real Madrid. That is, I genuinely might really come to regret this decision. But if after what happened with Ajax and Real Madrid in my last predictions video, it's been eating me up. So I want to make a big ballsy prediction, and if it pays off, then it'll rectify my error in not picking Ajax over Real Madrid. I just wonder how that Manchester United defense is going to deal. Chris Smalling, Phil Jones. I don't know if Phil Jones surely is going to get nowhere near a Champions League game, but some of their somewhat younger, more inexperienced defenders, how they're going to deal with the likes of the one and only Lionel Messi, Luis Suarez, Coutinho. Ousmane Dembele is also injured, so that comes into the equation as well, because I think that's a massive loss for them. He's really done all right in the Champions League this season. Malcolm might come in. He's also a threat, though, but I don't know why. I just believe in this Manchester United team. I feel like they could get it done. And then the other game is Liverpool versus Porto. Now, Liverpool, again, probably been given, I would say, the team that everyone wanted Porto. I don't think a lot of people wanted Ajax after what they did to Real Madrid, but you'd probably take them second or third on the list of teams. If you were to rank the teams in what order you'd want them, Porto would be right up the top. You would want them to get them in the draw. And that's no knock to Porto. I mean, you're in the quarterfinals of the Champions League, so some of the top 8 teams in Europe, but Porto in comparison to everybody else in this list, I think it's fairly obvious you would want them. Liverpool took down Roma by a massive, massive margin last season as well in the semi-finals, and Porto only just were able to get it done past Roma in what was a cracking second leg. So, I don't know. And have you seen Liverpool against Bayern Munich in that last leg? Mane and Mane looked absolutely unbelievable. He seems to be in some inspired form. Salah has, I felt, been a little bit quiet as of late, but I can't help but feel like he won't at least pop up against a side like Porto. He's got to get going at some point again. That's what I feel. Firmino ghosting under a lot of people. Like, he's under a lot of people's radar, but he's just kicking about and doing brilliantly as well. And that team is just solid. So Liverpool to go through, I think, is fairly safe bet. That means for the semi-final, the first one is Manchester City versus Juventus. You've got one side here in Man City with a super well-drilled attack, and you know that's the strong suit of their side, versus Juventus, where their strong suit is definitely their defense, but still have enough threatening players up top like Ronaldo and backed up by a really brilliant cast of supporting characters that they could prove to be a threat on the attack as well. Boys, it's a tough one. It's a tough one, this. To be fair, I think both semi-finals are almost impossible for me to call. I'm going to try and attempt to do it anyway. I know a lot of it comes down to form, injuries, things like that could play a part, and that could really help change this very, very close contest. But I I kind of get a bit of a feeling that we might see, for some weird reason, because we never really see 4 English teams this deep in the competition, at the quarterfinal stage. So I feel like we could very well end up seeing an all-England final. I mean, there's definitely going to be at least one England team now that the other semi-final I predicted will be Manchester United versus Liverpool in this situation. But is the other team that gets through going to be from England? I don't know why. I'm leaning toward Manchester City for this one. I can't see a team like Manchester City getting blown out the water and leaking or conceding a super amount of goals, and neither can I see Juve doing that either. But I just kind of get a little bit of a feeling that the pace of Sterling and Sane is going to be maybe a little bit too much to deal with for that Juve defense. And then again, they could very well do things and change their game plan to correct that. Maybe instead of playing a super high line, they'll try to drop back a little bit. But I don't know, is that going to give much of an opportunity for Ronaldo and the boys up top for them? I don't know. It's a very tight contest, but I feel like Sane and Sterling are going to absolutely do. They are going to test that Juve defense like none other. And then you've got Aguero, Gabriel Jesus there laying in wait. Sterling's in some incredible form. Sane's obviously class and was brilliant against Schalke. That attack is really, if there's not many in the world of football that could really test Juventus' defense like that, and I think Man City could potentially do it. Of course, Juventus have Cristiano Ronaldo, and he's shown that he has the ability to just pull out a result in the Champions League from time to time to save his team. He did it against Wolfsburg back in the day, did it against Bayern Munich, even though the Bayern Munich results with those offside goals, but it's a little sketchy. You won't see, that wouldn't have happened had VAR been in the games, been in the previous seasons, but regardless, he has a knack for doing that. So he might will his team on, but against Man City, I'm not sure. I think it's going to be an all-England final. That is what I predict. Man City to make the final, but who joins them? Is it going to be a Manchester derby, or is it going to be a battle between the top 2 in the Premier League, between Man City and Liverpool? Let's see. Will it be United or Liverpool? Another very tight one, another very tough call, and I think I'm going to bring a little bit of logic into this prediction as well. If you're Liverpool, you made the Champions League final last season, yeah? I think, obviously, you'd want to go for all, the league and the Champions League. But at this stage, I think who goes through is it's going to be very dependent on how the league is looking at this stage in the semi-finals. Because if Man City slip up a little bit and Liverpool go ahead, I think that they are going to want to put everything into the league and not into the Champions League. But if they're second, if Liverpool have maybe fallen off a little bit, and it looks like the title's been slipping away and Man City are going to go on to win it, Liverpool are probably going to go and put everything into the Champions League. That is what I think, because as good as it would be for them to pick up both the Champions League and the Premier League, realistically, they might have to go and put all their eggs in one basket at this stage in the season. If you're Liverpool, you've never won the Premier League, you already were in the Champions League final last season, you've never ever won the Premier League before, ever. You couldn't even get your greatest ever Steven Gerrard a Premier League title when it looked all but secured. He had to go and slip and you went and bottled it against Crystal Palace. You need this. Liverpool need to win a Premier League. It's incredible that they haven't in the history of this competition, that they have not managed to win the Premier League once. So I feel like if they're in a position to go on and do it, that is what they have to focus on, and that's probably maybe what could be a deterrent for them in the Champions League. But if it looks like Man City are going to pull away with it, then maybe Liverpool kick on and give a bit more fight to Manchester United. I'm going to say, because Manchester United for quite a while now have really, just off of memory, not really been able to do that well against Liverpool in previous seasons. And if this is one of the best seasons that Liverpool's ever had, if this is the strongest that Liverpool has looked in a very, very long time, I think across 2 legs, Liverpool get it done. I think they've been here before. They've made it past Manchester City, who you'd argue was probably last season an even better side than Manchester United are now, regardless of the form that they're in. So I'm going to say Liverpool. Liverpool to make it to the final, and it's a Manchester City versus Liverpool All-England final. The 2 top teams in the Premier League going at it for the Champions League to become European champions. Manchester City, who have never won the Champions League before in their history, versus Liverpool, who have won it 5 times in a row and been to, I don't know how many more finals. Obviously, at this stage in the season, the Premier League would have been finished, and this would be occurring about a week or so after the season, so everyone would have gotten a bit of a rest in, and the Premier League season would have wound down. The results would have been there. I don't think at this stage, whoever wins, Man City or Liverpool, has much of an effect at this point. Maybe injuries will obviously play a factor if there is anyone missing, but let's just take all teams and assume that they're the strongest that they could possibly be going into this final. We can go back to last season where they were matched up in, I believe it was the quarterfinals, and Liverpool got it done against Manchester City. Liverpool, I believe, got a result at Anfield, and they beat Man City on their own turf. So across 2 legs, they got the job done against them. Who says they couldn't do it maybe again in the Champions League, but this time in the final? Liverpool had also made the Champions League final the previous season, and it could have gone very, very different for them if Mo Salah actually stayed on the pitch, because I reckon before Salah was injured, Liverpool looked the more threatening side. And obviously, Loris Karius had his little say, but you've got Alisson in goal now, so I can't see that happening again unless, Sergio Ramos also comes across and hip and shoulders his head and concusses him for the preceding 15-20 minutes. We also have to look at the fact that Liverpool in finals, they've made a ton of them as of late, and they just don't have the bottle. I don't know what it is, but Liverpool have literally made so many finals in the last 2 or 3 seasons. The Champions League final, the Europa League final, I believe the Carabao Cup final, and they've gone down in them all. It's not just Liverpool that are struggling. It's almost like the Jurgen Klopp syndrome. Jurgen Klopp made so many finals, can't quite get it done. Liverpool, they get to the final without too much of an issue, but they can never take that last step and actually lift up the trophy. They never get it done. They always fall a bit short or a bit flat, or things don't go their way in finals. You just wonder if that would happen again to them, and if Man City, who, to be fair to them, every time they're in a final, they tend to get it done. I feel like it's if we look back over the games, both in Premier League and Champions League, again, like Man City and Liverpool, it's all very even split as well. Oh, God, it's a tough call, man. I don't know who to go for. I literally I'm struggling. It just comes down to who wants it and who's better on the day. That is simple as that, and you can't predict that. It's just whoever wants it more. Oh, and whoever gets the rub of the green, all that stuff. You can't predict who's going to get that. I'm just going to have to make a prediction off of history and off of, previous encounters, and the fact that Liverpool have this tendency. They just keep falling short in finals, even though it's commendable that they keep making these finals, but they just never seem to get it done. Whereas Man City look like a team full of killers, They're just, or like last season when they just were ruthless in the Premier League, and man, I don't know. Okay, fine. I think I've got a winner. I think I've come to a conclusion, belatedly, but I have a winner of the Champions League. Ladies and gentlemen, I predict that the winner of the Champions League for 2018-2019 will be... It's going to be Manchester City. Manchester City. They will have their night in Madrid. They will take down Liverpool and take their first ever Champions League title. That is what I am predicting. I don't know how they'll go in the FA Cup. I don't know if they'll see out the Premier League, but holy shit, if they can go on to win the Champions League, are we looking at a potential treble season? I mean, that'd just be one of 3. Carabao Cup doesn't count. I don't know. I'm not saying that they'll win the treble, but I am predicting here that Man City will win the Champions League. Let me know what you think in the description down below. Let me see your predictions. Let me hear who you think is going to win the Champions League, what you think the final might be, and all that. But until then, that'll do it for me. Thank you so much for watching. My name is the Masterbucks. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Have a good one. Also, by the way, I'm announcing a new career mode series tomorrow, so stay tuned.